March 19th, 1943. 38 degrees north, 122 degrees east. The USS Barb cuts through black Pacific water 200 feet below the surface. Arlen Thorne stands in the galley with 40 pounds of garbage in his hands: potato peels, bread crusts, coffee grounds, fish bones, the mundane refuse of 44 men eating breakfast. His hands are shaking. Through the bulkhead, he can hear the sonar operator calling out ranges 1,200 yards. 4 contacts, Japanese convoy heading northeast at 8 knots, 2 destroyers in escort pattern. Captain Garrett Huxley's voice comes through the intercom, steady and cold. Battle stations, torpedo room, load tubes 1 through 6. Thorne looks down at the garbage. In 7 minutes, he will open the trash disposal unit. He will dump this refuse into the Pacific Ocean. And based on what happens next, 44 men will either go home to their families or die screaming in a steel coffin at the bottom of the sea. Because this is not just garbage anymore. This is a weapon, and Thorne invented it. 6 months earlier, none of this was supposed to happen. Brooklyn, August 1942. The Hellman shipyard sprawls along the East River like a rust-colored scar. Cranes swing steel plates through hazy summer air. Welders send white sparks cascading onto concrete. The smell is oil and hot metal and sweat. Arlen Thorne is 29 years old. He works the No. 7 dock, torch in hand, welding hull seams on Liberty ships that will carry ammunition to England. 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. His hands are calloused. His face is sunburned. His marriage is held together by a woman who deserves better. Loretta. Blonde hair, always pinned up, works at the garment factory on Fulton Street. Comes home exhausted, makes dinner anyway, never complains, not once. And their daughter, Violet, 6 years old, gap-toothed smile, draws pictures of her father in a Navy uniform even though he is not in the Navy. Not yet. On the evening of August 14th, Violet sits at the kitchen table with crayons scattered around her like fallen leaves. She is drawing again, always drawing. "Daddy, when you go to war, will you be brave?" Thorne looks up from his newspaper. Thorne. The headline reads, "U-boats sink 15 ships in 1 week." He folds the paper slowly. "What makes you think I'm going to war, sweetheart?" Tommy's dad went, and Michael's dad, and Sarah's dad. She does not look up from her drawing. She is coloring a ship. Blue for the ocean, grey for the hull. "Why haven't you gone?" Loretta stands at the stove, her back to them both. The silence stretches. "I will, Vi, soon." "Will you be brave?" "I'll try." She finally looks up, those eyes, her mother's eyes. "Promise?" "I promise." He enlists the next morning. The Navy does not care that he is a welder. They need bodies. They need men. They put him on a bus to Norfolk. Basic training, 8 weeks. Then assignment to the USS Barb, a Gato-class fleet submarine. 312 feet of steel and diesel and torpedoes. He writes to Loretta every week, short letters. He is not good with words. He tells her the submarine is fine. He tells her the crew is fine. He tells her he is fine. He does not tell her that at night, when the boat is submerged and the only sound is the hum of electric motors and the drip of condensation, he lies in his bunk and wonders if this is how his father felt. His father who died at Belleau Wood in 1918. His father who was 29 years old when a German machine gun opened his chest like an envelope. The same age Thorne is now. On November the 3rd, 1942, Thorne makes a mistake. It is not a large mistake. Not at first. It is just a poker game, 5 men in the torpedo room playing 5-card draw with crumpled bills and cigarettes. Technically against regulations, but every submarine in the Pacific has a poker game. Everyone knows this. Nobody cares, except Lieutenant Commander Wesley Parrish sees them. And Wesley Parrish cares about regulations the way drowning men care about air. Thorn, captain's quarters now. Captain Huxley sits behind his desk in a space barely large enough for two men to stand. His face is weathered like driftwood, 42 years old, grey at the temples, eyes that have seen things most men spend their lives avoiding. Gambling on my boat, Thorn? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. You know the regulations? Yes, sir. Huxley looks at him for a long moment. Then he opens a drawer and pulls out a photograph. It shows a submarine on the surface, water cascading off its deck, men standing on the conning tower, smiling. You know what boat this is? No, sir. USS Grunion. I commanded her in 1941. 68 men. Good men. He puts the photograph back in the drawer. She went down off the Aleutians last July. They still haven't found her. 68 men gone. Thorn says nothing. I didn't listen to my crew on the Grunion, followed doctrine, followed orders, did everything by the book. Huxley closes the drawer. And 68 men died because I thought I knew better than the enlisted men who actually operated the systems. He looks up. You're assigned to galley duty for 6 months. You'll cook, you'll clean, you'll dispose of trash, and you'll learn that every man on this boat matters, even the ones who make stupid mistakes. Yes, sir. Dismissed. Thorn writes to Loretta that night, tells her he has been reassigned, does not tell her it is a punishment, does not tell her he is now the cook. The cook, he can hear the other wives asking, what does your husband do? Oh, mine operates the torpedo tubes. Mine runs the radio room. Mine is a cook. Her response arrives 2 weeks later. Other wives' husbands fight. Mine cooks. 5 words. That is all she writes. 5 words that burn. The galley on the USS Barb is a space 8 feet by 10 feet, a stove, a sink, a trash disposal unit mounted to the starboard bulkhead, the TDU trash disposal unit, a cylindrical chamber with a pressurized airlock system. You put garbage in, you seal the inner hatch, you pressurize the chamber to match sea pressure, you open the outer hatch, the garbage gets ejected into the ocean. Simple, efficient. Every submarine has one. Thorn learns the system in his first week. He learns to time the disposal cycles. Early morning, noon, evening. He learns what floats and what sinks. Bread floats, potato peels float, coffee grounds sink, fish bones sink eventually. He learns because there is nothing else to do. The other crew members do not talk to him much. He is the cook, the man who got caught gambling, the man who scrubs pots while they hunt Japanese convoys. So he watches, he observes, he notices patterns that others overlook. And on December 7th, 1942, exactly 1 year after Pearl Harbor, he discovers something. The Barb is tracking a Japanese supply convoy 800 miles east of Tokyo, 3 cargo ships, 1 destroyer escort. Captain Huxley has been following them for 6 hours, staying at periscope depth, waiting for the right moment to attack. At 0600 hours, Thorn dumps the breakfast garbage, 40 pounds of food waste through the TDU. Standard procedure. 25 minutes later, the destroyer escort changes course, turns 15 degrees to port, begins a search pattern. Thorn watches through the periscope display in the control room, watches the destroyer move, watches it circle. Huxley orders Barb to dive to 300 feet. They go silent. The destroyer passes overhead, drops 2 depth charges, both explode 500 yards away, not close, but close enough to rattle dishes in the galley. 2 hours later, the convoy is gone. Thorn says nothing. It could be coincidence. December 10th, another convoy, another tracking session. Thorn dumps garbage at 0600. 22 minutes later, the escort destroyer turns toward their position. Huxley dives. The convoy escapes again. Thorn goes to his bunk that night and pulls out a notebook. He stole it from the supply room, Navy property. He does not care. He writes down the dates, the times, the intervals. December 7th, garbage at 0600, enemy response at 0625, December 10th, garbage at 0600, enemy response at 0622. He stares at the numbers. It cannot be the garbage, that would be insane. But what else? December 15th. Thorne asks the officer of the deck if he can watch from the control room during morning operations. Unusual request from a cook, but the officer shrugs. Fine, stay out of the way. At 0600, Thorne dumps the garbage, then he stands by the periscope display watching. The debris spreads on the surface. Bread, peels, small white pieces floating in dark water. 24 minutes later, the Japanese destroyer turns directly toward them. Thorne's heart stops. It is not coincidence. They are reading the debris field. They are using the floating garbage to track the submarine's position. They are using Thorne's trash to hunt the boat. He does not sleep that night. He lies in his rack and thinks. If the Japanese can read the debris, then the debris must create a pattern, a trail, something visible from the surface. He starts testing. For 3 weeks, he varies the timing. Dumps garbage at different intervals, 0500, 0700, noon. He watches the enemy response. He writes everything down in his stolen notebook. The pattern is undeniable. Floating debris creates a visible trail. Bread stays buoyant for 40 minutes. Vegetable peels spread in a fan pattern that indicates the submarine's heading and approximate speed. The timing of disposal tells observers when the submarine is at periscope depth rather than running deep. Every time Thorne dumps garbage, he is painting a target on the hull. He has to tell someone. But who? He is a cook, a punishment case, a man who scrubs pots. Who will listen? But then he remembers what Huxley said. Every man on this boat matters. On January 9th, 1943, Thorne knocks on the captain's door. Enter! Huxley is reviewing navigation charts. He looks up. Thorne, problem? Sir, I need to show you something. Make it quick. Thorne opens his notebook, shows the dates, the times, the patterns. Sir, I think the Japanese are tracking us using our garbage. Huxley's expression does not change. He takes the notebook, reads slowly, flips through pages, looks at the data. You've been documenting this for a month. Yes, sir. Why didn't you report it immediately? I thought I was crazy, sir. Huxley looks at him, really looks at him. Then he closes the notebook. You're not crazy, Thorne. This is solid intelligence work, better than most officers produce. He hands the notebook back. But I need proof. Real proof. Not just observation. What kind of proof, sir? I need to see it. I need controlled conditions. Huxley walks to his chart table. We're scheduled for resupply at Pearl Harbor next week. I'll arrange a training exercise. We'll test your theory with friendly aircraft observing. You believe me, sir? Huxley looks at the photograph of the USS Grunion in its frame. Last time I ignored enlisted input, 68 men died. I won't make that mistake twice. Pearl Harbor. January 18th, 1943. Clear skies. Calm water. The USS Barb sits on the surface 2 miles offshore, while a Navy PBY Catalina circles at 5,000 feet altitude. Thorne stands by the TDU. Huxley is beside him with a stopwatch. Dump the garbage, Thorne. Everything you've got. Thorne opens the inner hatch. 40 pounds of food waste. He seals it, pressurizes, opens the outer hatch. The garbage ejects in a cloud of bubbles. Huxley radios the Catalina. Observer 1, do you see anything? The response comes back immediately. Affirmative, visual contact. Debris field, bearing 270, spread approximately 1/4 mile. Bread, vegetable matter, clearly visible. Huxley looks at Thorne. Dive the boat, emergency dive, 300 feet. Make your depth. The barb submerges in 90 seconds. Huxley orders a heading change, 180 degrees, opposite direction from the debris. They run submerged for 20 minutes, then surface. Observer 1, can you still track us? Negative. You are not visible from altitude, but the debris field remains. Wind is spreading it northeast. If I were hunting you, I would calculate your heading based on debris pattern and search accordingly. Huxley turns off the radio. He looks at Thorne for a long moment. Then he says something that changes everything. Thorne, if our garbage betrays us to the enemy, then garbage can lie to the enemy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Thorne does not understand. Not yet. Huxley continues. We've been trying to eliminate our trail. We've been trying to be invisible. But what if we do the opposite? What if we intentionally create a trail, a false trail? We dump garbage, we make them think we're running in one direction, and then we go somewhere else. The realization hits Thorne like a depth charge. We turn the debris into a decoy. Exactly. Huxley puts his hand on Thorne's shoulder. You just invented a new weapon, son, with potato peels and bread crusts. They spend the next week testing different debris patterns, different timings, different evasion maneuvers. The Catalina tracks every test, records every result. The conclusion is undeniable. Floating garbage creates a false trail that enemy observers will follow. A submarine can dump debris, turn 180 degrees and completely escape detection while the enemy searches empty ocean. Simple, brilliant, and it came from a cook who got caught gambling. On February 1st, Huxley files a detailed report with Pacific Fleet Command. Operation False Trail. Full technical breakdown. Recommendations for tactical implementation. He lists Arlen Thorne as the primary architect. The report goes up the chain. Admiral Lockwood reads it, Admiral King reads it. Copies go to Atlantic Fleet Command, copies go to the British Admiralty. Nobody responds, not immediately. The Navy does not move fast. New tactics require approval, review, testing, validation. But somewhere across the Atlantic Ocean, a British commander named Nathaniel Winters reads the report. Winters commands HMS Starling, a River-class frigate hunting U-boats in the North Atlantic. Winters has lost count of how many sonar contacts he has chased, how many depth charge patterns he has dropped on empty water while German submarines escaped. The frustration burns, and now he holds a report from the Pacific Theatre. A report about garbage. It sounds insane. But Winters is desperate. He issues orders to his crew. Prepare bags of food waste, bread, vegetables, anything that floats. Store them in the galley for tactical deployment. His officers think he has lost his mind, but Winters knows something they do not know. In war, the craziest ideas are often the ones that work. March 19th, 1943, Formosa. The USS Barb tracks a 4-ship Japanese convoy, 2 cargo vessels, 1 tanker, 1 troop transport, 2 Matsu-class destroyers providing escort. Captain Huxley has been following them for 8 hours. The convoy is heading northeast at 8 knots. The destroyers are running a standard defensive pattern, sweeping for submarines with sonar, alert, professional. At 05:30 hours, Huxley calls Thorne to the control room. This is it, Thorne. First combat test, you ready? Yes, sir. Dump the garbage, 40 pounds, everything you've got. Thorne goes to the galley, opens the TDU, 40 pounds of potato peels, bread scraps, coffee grounds, fish bones. He loads it all, seals the inner hatch, pressurizes the chamber. His hands are shaking. If this fails, 44 men die. If this fails, it is his fault. He opens the outer hatch. The garbage ejects into the Pacific. Huxley orders dive. 300 feet. Heading 180, opposite direction from the debris. The Barb descends into darkness, silent running, every man holding his breath. Above them, on the surface, the debris spreads. White flecks on black water, visible from aircraft, visible from destroyer bridges. The Japanese lookouts see it immediately. Report to their commanders debris field bearing 090 submarine activity. Both destroyers turn toward the garbage, accelerate to 15 knots, begin depth charge runs. The charges explode 3 miles away. Thunder in deep water. The barb runs silent, runs south, away from the noise, away from the death. At 0612 hours, Huxley brings the boat to periscope depth. He rotates the scope, scans the horizon. The Japanese convoy is there, unprotected. Both destroyers are still depth-charging empty ocean to the northeast. Huxley does not smile. He simply says, firing point procedures, bearing 290, range 1,000 yards. The torpedo room reports ready. Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, Fire 4, Fire 5, Fire 6. 6 Mark 14 torpedoes leave their tubes. They run at 46 knots, 38 seconds to target. 4 hit. The lead cargo vessel breaks in half. The tanker explodes. The troop transport takes a torpedo in the engine room and goes dead in the water. 3,000 tons of Japanese shipping destroyed in 90 seconds. The destroyers realize their mistake. They turn. They race back toward the convoy. But the barb is already diving, already running east at 7 knots. Thorn dumps more garbage, this time in the opposite direction. The destroyers find the new debris field and attack that position. The barb escapes without taking a single depth charge close enough to hear. That night in his bunk, Thorn writes to Loretta. He cannot tell her what happened, cannot tell her about the convoy, cannot tell her about the weapon he invented. Everything is classified, so he writes, I did something today, can't say what. But Vi can be proud. 2 weeks later, her response arrives. Vi drew a picture of Daddy the hero. I put it on the fridge. And for the first time since he enlisted, Arlen Thorn feels like maybe he kept his promise to his daughter. Maybe he was brave after all. March 20th, 1943. The USS Barb surfaces after dark, 70 miles south of Formosa. The ocean is black glass, no moon, stars scattered like broken crystal across the sky. Arlen Thorn stands on the aft deck with 3 other crew members. They are smoking cigarettes. Nobody talks. The smell of diesel exhaust mixes with salt air. Behind them, 3 Japanese ships are burning on the horizon, orange flames reflected in dark water. The fires will burn all night, all. Tomorrow, rescue vessels will find wreckage and bodies and oil slicks stretching for miles. Thorn killed those men. Not directly, he did not fire the torpedoes, but he created the weapon that made it possible. 40 pounds of garbage, that is all it took. One of the crew members, a kid from Ohio named Sullivan, nudges him. That was something, Thorn, watching those Japs chase trash while we lined up shots, like shooting fish in a barrel. Thorn does not respond. He takes a drag on his cigarette and watches the fires burn. Sullivan keeps talking. Captain says we're going to use that trick again. Says every boat in the fleet's going to learn it. You're famous, man. Well, not famous, but you know what I mean. Yeah, Thorn says quietly. I know what you mean. Sullivan goes below deck. The other crew members follow. Thorn stays, watches the fires until they are just orange smudges on the horizon, watches until he cannot see them anymore. When he finally goes below, he sits in his bunk with a pencil and paper. He writes to Loretta. The words come slowly. Dear Loretta, I did something today. Can't tell you what, can't tell you how. But people died because of me, not our people, the enemy. I should feel proud. Captain says I should. The crew treats me different now, like I'm somebody, but all I see is fire. V asked if I would be brave. I don't know if this is brave. I don't know what this is. Tell her I'm trying. Tell her I love her. Arlen. He folds the letter, seals it, falls asleep with his clothes on. In his dreams, men are drowning. They scream in Japanese. He does not speak Japanese, but somehow he understands. They are calling for their mothers. They are 19 and 20 and 22 years old. They are burning in oil fires. They are sinking in dark water. He wakes up at 0400, sweat-soaked, heart pounding. The bunk above him creaks. Sullivan's voice drifts down.
Bad dreams? Go back to sleep. We all get 'em, Thorne. Comes with the job. I said go back to sleep. Silence. Then Sullivan's breathing goes steady again. Asleep. Thorne lies there until morning watch, staring at the steel overhead, counting rivets, thinking about fire. Captain Huxley files his after-action report on March 22nd. Detailed technical breakdown, timing of debris deployment, evasion maneuvers, torpedo spread, results. 3 Japanese vessels destroyed. 0 Allied casualties. Enemy deceived by false trail debris deployment. He recommends immediate dissemination to all Pacific Fleet submarines. Recommends evaluation by Atlantic Fleet Command. Recommends recognition for Torpedo Man First Class Arlen Thorne for tactical innovation under combat conditions. The report goes up the chain. Admiral Lockwood at Pacific Fleet reads it. Admiral King at Naval Operations reads it. Copies are transmitted to Pearl Harbor, to San Diego, to Washington, and across the Atlantic, to London. Commander Nathaniel Winters receives his copy on April 2nd, 1943. Winters is 45 years old. He commands HMS Starling, a River-class frigate operating out of Liverpool. For 11 months, he has been hunting U-boats in the North Atlantic. For 11 months, he has been losing. His war diary tells the story. Contact bearing 270. Depth charges deployed. Target evaded. Contact bearing 185. Depth charges deployed. Target evaded. Contact bearing 310. Depth charges deployed. Target evaded. 27 sonar contacts. 3 confirmed kills. 24 escapes. The mathematics are brutal. German U-boats are sinking merchant vessels faster than Allied shipyards can replace them. In the first 3 months of 1943, 108 ships have gone down. 627,000 tons of shipping obliterated. Britain is starving, slowly, methodically. Admiral Dönitz and his wolf packs are winning the Battle of the Atlantic. Winters reads the American report in his cabin, reads it twice, then a third time. False trail debris deployment. It sounds insane. It sounds like something a desperate man would try. Winters is a desperate man. He calls his officers to the wardroom, shows them the report, explains the concept. Lieutenant Harper, his executive officer, looks skeptical. Sir, with respect, this is garbage. Literally. I'm aware. The Americans want us to fight U-boats with potato peels. That's correct. Sir, Harper, we've lost 4 convoys in 6 weeks. We've depth-charged empty ocean while U-boats lined up torpedo solutions. We've done everything by the book. The book is not working. Winters closes the report. We try this, prepare bags of food waste, store them in the galley. When we make contact with a U-boat, we deploy the debris and see what happens.
Aye. And if it doesn't work, sir? Then we've wasted some bread and vegetables and will be no worse off than we are now. Harper says nothing, but he follows orders. Every officer on HMS Starling follows orders. That is how the Royal Navy works. April 14th, 1943, 380 miles southwest of Iceland. HMS Starling's sonar operator goes pale. His voice carries through the control room. Contact, bearing 270, range 1,200 yards, multiple signatures, 3 contacts. Winters steps to the plot table, 3 U-boats, running, in coordination, wolf pack tactics. The innovation that has sent over 500 Allied merchant ships to the bottom in the past 6 months. Convoy HX-234 is 40 miles to the west. 42 merchant vessels carrying fuel and ammunition and food to Britain. If this Wolfpack gets past Starling, those ships are dead. Winters has been hunting these contacts for 11 hours. His depth charge racks are half empty. His crew is exhausted. The U-boats keep evading.
They dive deep. They turn perpendicular. They wait. Standard German doctrine, proven doctrine, effective doctrine. Then Winters makes a decision that will be analyzed in naval academies for the next 80 years. Prepare debris deployment, 60 pounds, bread, vegetables, anything that floats. Harper looks at him. Sir? Do it. The crew brings up the bags, bread scraps, potato peels, vegetable waste. They dump it over the port side while Starling runs at 15 knots. The debris spreads across half a mile of ocean, white and brown pieces floating on grey Atlantic swells. Then Winters gives the next order. Hard to starboard, reduce speed to 8 knots, maintain bearing 090. Starling turns away from the debris field, running parallel to the original course, offset by 1,200 yards. Below the surface, Kapitän Leutnant Otto Reinhardt observes through the periscope of U-191. Reinhardt is 35 years old. He has sunk 12 Allied ships. He is an ace. He knows how British frigates hunt. He has studied their doctrine. He has memorized their patterns. British escorts charge directly at sonar contacts. They drop depth charges in preset formations, diamond pattern or ladder pattern. 300 yards, the attacking frigate loses sonar contact when passing overhead. Creates a blind zone. The U-boat turns perpendicular and escapes. Reinhardt has done this 87 times. He watches the debris field through his scope, sees the bread, sees the vegetable matter, reads it like a tactical display. The British frigate is preparing for extended pursuit. The crew is dumping waste before a long chase. They expect this to take hours. They are following standard procedure. Reinhardt's war diary entry, recovered from German naval archives after the war, records his assessment. Destroyer at 2,000 meters. Food waste in water indicates crew preparing for extended operations. Enemy expects long chase. Standard British aggression. We will execute Tiefer Tauschgang. Dive to 150 meters. Silent running. Wait for escort to exhaust depth charges. Resume attack position when clear. He orders the dive. U-191 descends to 500 feet. The electric motors slow to 3 knots. Silent running. Every man aboard knows the drill. No talking, no movement. Breathe quietly. Wait. Above them, HMS Wren positions directly over U-191's projected location. Wren carries new sonar equipment, Type 147B, capable of tracking targets to 700 feet in favorable conditions. The Germans do not know this equipment exists. Wren's sonar operator whispers into his microphone. Target acquired, range 450, depth 480 feet. Stationary. Winter's voice comes back over the radio net. Fire Hedgehog. 24 Hedgehog anti-submarine mortars launch from Wren's forward deck. They arc through grey sky, fall in a circular pattern. Each bomb contains 35 pounds of Torpex explosive. Contact fuses. They only detonate on impact. 7 bombs hit U-191's pressure hull. Inside the submarine, the lights go out instantly. Water explodes through ruptured seams. The pressure at 480 feet is 215 pounds per square inch. When the hull breaches, the ocean does not flow in. It detonates in. Reinhardt has 3 seconds. He sees water. He sees darkness. He reaches for the photograph in his breast pocket. His wife, his 2 daughters, ages 8 and 6. He does not have time to pull the photograph out. U-191 implodes. The pressure hull collapses like a tin can under a hammer. 49 men die instantly. No time to scream. No time to pray. Just darkness and pressure and the sound of steel tearing. On the surface, Winters watches the sonar display. Contact lost. Debris field rising. Oil slick confirmed. 1 down. The other 2 U-boats hear the detonations. Both commanders immediately assume the British have developed new deep-diving depth charges. Both execute the same response. Dive to maximum depth, 750 feet, where they believe they are safe.
At 750 feet, a U-boat can move at 4 knots maximum. Any faster and the hull stress becomes critical. They are essentially stationary. They are blind. They cannot use periscopes at that depth. They cannot maneuver aggressively. They cannot surface without exposing themselves to immediate attack. They are trapped. Winters knows this. He has read the German tactical manual, captured from U-570 in 1941. He knows exactly what the U-boat commanders are thinking. HMS Starling and HMS Woodpecker position above the estimated locations. They drop Mark 7 depth charges, set to detonate at 700 feet, 16 charges in a box pattern, quarter-mile grid, no escape. U-634 breaks apart at 14:42 hours, 38 crew, all dead. U-415 takes damage but survives. The commander has no choice. He blows ballast tanks. The submarine surfaces. Woodpecker's 4-inch gun opens fire at 800 yards. The first shell misses. The second shell hits the conning tower, penetrates, detonates inside. U-415 sinks in 4 minutes. 6 survivors, 38 dead, 3 U-boats destroyed in 74 minutes. Convoy HX-234 passes through the patrol area without losing a single merchant ship. Winters transmits his after-action report that evening. Detailed breakdown, debris deployment, coordinated attack. Results: 3 U-boats destroyed, 0 Allied casualties, tactic designated false trail creation. The report goes to Admiral Horton at Western Approaches Command, goes to the Admiralty in London, goes to Anti-Submarine Warfare Division. On April 22, 1943, the Admiralty distributes the tactic to all escort group commanders. Anti-Submarine Warfare Tactical Bulletin 1743. False trail debris deployment. Recommended for immediate implementation. The Battle of the Atlantic is about to change. In May of 1943, Allied escorts sink 41 U-boats, the highest monthly total of the war. Admiral Dönitz calls it Black May. On May the 24th, he withdraws all U-boats from the North Atlantic convoy routes. The wolf packs are beaten. The tide has turned. The mathematics reverse. For every Allied merchant ship sunk, 3 U-boats are destroyed. The USS Barb receives the news via radio transmission while on patrol south of Japan. Sullivan and the crew celebrate when they make port in Pearl Harbor. They buy drinks. Toast the British. Toast the Atlantic Fleet. Toast the turning tide of war. Thorne sits alone in the galley. He has been counting. 1,800 German sailors, maybe 2,000, all killed by a tactic that carries no attribution in the official reports. When Sullivan finds him, drunk and staring at nothing, he asks the question. "You invented that, didn't you? The garbage thing?" Thorne looks up. "How do you know?" "I pay attention." Sullivan sits down, lights a cigarette, offers one to Thorne. "Must feel weird. Saving 10,000 guys and being invisible to history." "Yeah. If it helps." "I know. Captain knows. That's something. It's not nothing. But it's not enough." "No." Sullivan stands, claps Thorne on the shoulder. "For what it's worth, you're a goddamn hero, whether they write it down or not." That night, Thorne writes to Loretta. The letter is different. Raw. "My idea is being used in the Atlantic now. 41 U-boats in 1 month. That's 1,800 men, maybe 2,000. I did the math. All dead. The Navy credits tactical innovations by command staff. My name appears nowhere. I'm a cook who got lucky. That's what the official record will say. If it says anything at all, I should feel proud. Everyone says I should. We're winning now. Because of what I figured out, 10,000 Allied sailors going home, that should be enough. But I keep thinking about the German wives, the German children. 2,000 families just got telegrams. Somewhere in Hamburg or Berlin, mothers are crying. Kids are asking when daddy's coming home. I did that, and I'll never be recognized for it. Is that better or worse? I can't decide. Her response arrives 3 weeks later. Arlen, you didn't kill those men. Hitler killed those men when he started this war.
You saved our boys. You saved 10,000 of our boys. That's what matters. That's what Vi will understand when she's older. Be proud. Please be proud. I love you. Loretta. He reads the letter 5 times, folds it carefully, puts it in his footlocker with the others. The nightmares continue. Drowning men, screaming in German, trapped in steel coffins, water rushing in, pressure, darkness, death. Thorn wakes up every night at 0300, sweating, gasping. The bunks around him are silent. Everyone has nightmares. It comes with the job. But Thorn's nightmares are different. In his dreams, the drowning men know his name. They call out to him. They ask why. They ask what they did to deserve this. He does not have an answer. Captain Huxley finds him in the galley one night, 0400. Thorn is sitting on the deck with his back against the bulkhead, staring at nothing. Huxley sits down next to him, says nothing for a long time. Finally, Thorn speaks. How many, Captain? How many what? How many men have died because of my idea? Huxley considers the question. By my count, probably 1,800, maybe 2,000, hard to say. That doesn't bother you? Of course it bothers me. I commanded the Grunion. 68 men died on my watch. You think I don't see their faces? Huxley pulls out a cigarette, lights it. But I also think about the 10,000 Allied sailors who didn't die. The 10,000 men who went home to their families. That's the math, Thorn. That's war. You don't get to choose the enemy. You just get to choose whether you fight or surrender. I'm a cook. You were a cook. Now you're the man who changed the war, whether you like it or not. Thorn says nothing. Huxley stands. Get some sleep, Thorn. That's an order. Yes, sir. But sleep does not come. Not that night. Not the next. The faces keep appearing. The drowning men, the burning men, the men trapped in steel coffins at the bottom of the Atlantic. 1,800 ghosts, maybe 2,000. And Thorn remains uncredited in every official report. On July 9th, 1944, Commander Nathaniel Winters collapses on the bridge of HMS Starling. He has been at sea for 34 consecutive months. No extended leave, no rest, just convoys and U-boats and depth charges and death. The ship's surgeon diagnoses cerebral thrombosis, blood clot in the brain, caused by exhaustion, caused by stress, caused by 34 months of war without pause. Winters dies that evening, age 48. The Royal Navy buries him at sea with full honours. 300 escort vessels fire salutes. The Admiralty issues a commendation. Commander Nathaniel Winters, hero of the Atlantic. 300 merchant ships saved. 10,000 Allied sailors protected. Arlen Thorn learns about this through a telegram. He is in Pearl Harbor. The barb is in dry dock for refit. He reads the telegram in his bunk. Commander Winters dead. Cerebral thrombosis. Buried at sea with honours. Thorn folds the telegram. Puts it with Loretta's letters. That night, he goes to the base chapel. Sits in the back pew. The chapel is empty. No service scheduled. Just silence and shadows and the smell of wood polish. He thinks about Winters, a man he never met. A man who used Thorn's innovation to save convoys. A man who died because he fought too hard for too long without rest. And still, through all of this, Arlen Thorn's name appears in no official record. The war continues. The USS Barb continues hunting. Thorn continues cooking. The nightmares continue. But something has changed. Thorn stops counting the dead, stops writing about the ghosts, stops trying to understand the mathematics of war. He just does his job. Cooks, cleans, dumps garbage when ordered. He writes to Loretta every week. Short letters. He is fine. The boat is fine. The crew is fine. He does not mention the nightmares. He does not mention Winters. He does not mention that he invented a weapon that killed 2,000 men and saved 10,000 others and remains invisible to history, because some truths are too heavy to write down. Some truths you carry alone. August 15th, 1945.
The war is over. The news comes over the radio in Brooklyn at noon. Japan has surrendered. The Pacific War is finished. People pour into the streets. Strangers embrace. Church bells ring. Car horns blare. Someone sets off fireworks, even though it is broad daylight. Loretta Thorne stands in her kitchen and cries. Not tears of joy, just tears. Pure release. 39 months of fear finally ending. Violet sits at the table drawing. She is 9 years old now. Taller, gap-toothed smile gone. Permanent teeth coming in crooked. Is Daddy coming home? Yes, sweetheart. Daddy's coming home. When? Soon. Vi goes back to her drawing. She is sketching a submarine. She has drawn hundreds of submarines over the past 3 years, all of them grey, all of them underwater. She does not know why she draws them this way. She just does. Arlen Thorne steps off the bus in Brooklyn on September 23, 1945. Honourable discharge papers in his sea bag. 31 years old. 15 pounds lighter than when he enlisted. Eyes older than his face. Loretta and Vi are waiting at the bus station. Loretta sees him first. She does not run. She walks. Steady. Controlled. Then she is in his arms, and she is shaking and crying and holding him like, if she lets go, he will disappear. Vi stands 3 feet away, watching. She does not remember what her father looks like. Not really. She has photographs, but photographs are flat. This man is real, solid, smells like cigarettes and diesel and something else she cannot name. Thorne kneels down, eye level with his daughter. Hi, Vi. Hi. You got tall. You got skinny. He laughs. First time he has laughed in months. Yeah, Navy food will do that. Did you fight? The question hangs in the air. Loretta tenses. Thorne can feel her watching. I did my job, sweetheart, that's all. Were you brave? He remembers the promise. 3 years ago, in this same kitchen. Were you brave? I'll try. Promise? I promise. I tried to be. Vi hugs him. Sudden. Fierce. Her small arms around his neck. She whispers, I knew you would be. That night, Thorne cannot sleep. The bed is too soft. The room is too quiet. No engine hum. No drip of condensation. No sound of 43 other men breathing in the darkness. He goes downstairs, sits at the kitchen table, looks at the refrigerator. Vi's drawings are everywhere. Submarines, dozens of them, all grey, all underwater. Loretta comes down at 0300, finds him sitting there in the dark. Can't sleep? No. She sits across from him, does not turn on the light. They sit in darkness together. What happened out there, Arlen? I can't talk about it. Classified. Yes. Will you ever be able to talk about it? I don't know. She reaches across the table, takes his hand. Whatever it was, whatever you did, you came home. That's what matters. He does not respond. Because coming home is not sufficient. Not when 1800 ghosts follow you. Not when your contribution remains erased. October 5th, 1945. Thorne goes to the Brooklyn Navy Yard Employment Office. He needs work. Welding work. Something with his hands. Something real. The interviewer is a tired man in a civilian suit. He reviews Thorne's discharge papers. USS Barb. Good boat. Good record. What was your rate? Torpedo man first class. Torpedoes. Good. We need skilled men. War's over, but we still got ships to maintain. You start Monday. $12 a week. Thorne takes the job. Monday morning, he is back at the docks. Different dock, different ships, but the same smell. Oil and metal and salt water. He welds hull seams, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. The work is simple, methodical, peaceful. Nobody asks about the war. Nobody thanks him for his service. He is just another veteran, just another man trying to forget. On October 20th, Vi comes home from school crying. Loretta finds her in her room. "What happened, sweetheart?" "Mrs. Patterson asked what our dads did in the war." "And?" "Tommy's dad was a pilot. Michael's dad was a Marine. Sarah's dad was on a destroyer." Vi wipes her nose. "I said my dad was on a submarine. Mrs. Patterson asked what he did. I said he was a cook." Loretta sits on the bed. "And?" Everyone laughed. Tommy said, "Cooks don't fight." He said, "My dad just made eggs while other people did the real work." Loretta pulls Vi close. "Your father did important work." "Very important. But he was just a cook." "No, he was more than that." "Then why won't he tell me?" Loretta has no answer. That night, after Vi is asleep, she tells Thorne what happened. He sits at the kitchen table, says nothing for a long time. "Maybe Tommy's right. Arlen, I made eggs, I washed dishes, I dumped garbage, that's what I did." "You know that's not true." "Do I?" She slams her hand on the table. Not loud, but hard, definite. "Stop. Whatever happened out there, whatever you did, it mattered. I know it mattered. I can see it in your face, in your nightmares, in the way you stare at nothing." She leans forward. "Tell me, please. Tell me what you did." And suddenly, the dam breaks. Thorne tells her everything. The garbage, the pattern, the discovery, the testing, the first combat use, the 3 Japanese ships burning, Commander Winters, and the Atlantic. 41 U-boats in May. 1,800 men dead, maybe 2,000. He tells her about the nightmares, about the drowning faces, about Otto Reinhardt and his photograph of his wife and 2 daughters that he never got to pull from his pocket. He tells her that he invented a weapon with potato peels, that he changed the war, that he saved 10,000 Allied sailors. And he tells her that his contribution remains unacknowledged in every official record. When he finishes, they sit in silence. Loretta's face is wet. She is not crying. Just tears running down her cheeks. Silent. "Jesus, Arlen." "Yeah. You did that. You really did that." "Yeah. And the Navy won't recognize it." "No." She stands, walks around the table, sits in his lap like she did when they were dating. Before the war, before everything, she puts her head on his shoulder. "I know, Vi will know, that's enough." Is it? It has to be. But it is not sufficient. Not for Thorne. November 12th, 1945. Thorne writes a letter to the Bureau of Naval Personnel. Formal letter, requesting information about commendations or recognition for tactical innovations during wartime service. The response arrives 3 weeks later. "Dear Mr. Thorne, the Bureau of Naval Personnel has reviewed your inquiry. Tactical methods and operational innovations developed during wartime operations remain classified. Individual recognition for such contributions is not possible at this time. Your service record reflects honorable discharge and satisfactory performance of assigned duties. No further action is warranted. Respectfully, Bureau of Naval Personnel." Thorne reads the letter 3 times, then he goes to the basement, pulls out his sea bag. At the bottom, wrapped in an oilcloth, is his notebook. The stolen notebook. The one where he documented everything. Times, dates, patterns, the evidence. He carries it upstairs. Loretta is at work. Vi is at school. The house is empty. He opens the stove, lights a match, burns the notebook page by page, watches his handwriting curl and blacken and turn to ash. When Loretta comes home, she finds him sitting on the floor. The kitchen smells like smoke. "Arlen?" He does not look up. They said my service was satisfactory. That's the word they used, satisfactory. She kneels beside him, sees the ash in the stove. What did you burn? The evidence, my notebook, everything. Why? Because it doesn't matter. They don't care. The Navy doesn't care. Loretta slaps him. Not hard, but definite. He looks up, shocked. Don't you dare, she says, her voice shaking. Don't you dare give up. You saved lives, thousands of lives, whether they recognize it or not, whether they give you a medal or not. You did it, and Vi is going to understand. I promise you that. Thorne starts crying. First time since he came home. He cries for the 1800 ghosts, for Otto Reinhardt, for Nathaniel Winters, for himself. Loretta holds him until he stops. April 9th, 1946. A package arrives at the Thorne apartment. Brown paper wrapping. Return address from San Diego. Thorne opens it. Inside is a book. Hardcover, blue cloth binding. The title reads, The Barb's War, a Submarine Commander's Story by Captain Garrett Huxley, U.S. Navy, retired. A note is tucked inside the front cover. Handwritten. Thorne. They wouldn't give you a medal, so I gave you this, page 147. History will remember. I made sure of it. G. H. Thorne opens to page 147, begins reading. Chapter 12. The Cook Who Won the Atlantic. In March of 1943, my submarine was assigned galley duty to a man who had been caught gambling. His name was Arlen Thorne. He was 29 years old. He was a welder from Brooklyn. He had no formal tactical training. He had never attended officers' school or studied naval warfare, but he changed the war. This chapter details how Torpedo Man Thorne discovered that floating debris created visible tracking patterns, how he documented his observations with scientific precision, how he proposed the tactical innovation that became known as false trail debris deployment, how his idea was tested, validated, and disseminated to all Allied naval forces, how 41 U-boats were destroyed in May of 1943 because a cook noticed patterns others overlooked. The chapter is 12 pages long. Every detail is accurate. Every date is correct. Thorne's name appears 43 times. That evening, Vi comes home from school, 11 years old now, doing homework at the kitchen table. Thorne sits down across from her, places the book between them. Vi, I want to read you something. What is it? A story, a true story, about what I did in the war. She looks up, eyes wide. He reads her chapter 12, all 12 pages. She does not interrupt, does not ask questions, just listens. When he finishes, she is crying. Daddy, you saved all those people. I did. With garbage? With garbage. She stands, runs around the table, hugs him so hard he can barely breathe. You were brave. You were so brave. And for the first time since he came home, Arlen Thorne believes it might be true. The years pass, slowly at first, then faster. The Cold War begins. The Soviet Union builds submarines, deploys them across the Atlantic. The Navy develops new anti-submarine tactics, new sonar, new depth charges, new decoy systems. In 1952, Thorne reads a declassified naval intelligence report. It mentions that Soviet submarines use noisemakers and bubble generators to create false sonar signatures. The report notes that these tactics were likely developed based on captured German documents from World War II, documents that described Allied use of debris deployment, his innovation, still being used, still saving lives. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis brings the world to the edge of nuclear war. American destroyers hunt Soviet submarines in the Caribbean. The newspapers report that Navy ships used sophisticated decoy tactics to track enemy vessels. Thorne clips the article, keeps it. That evening, Vi visits. She is 32 years old now, married, 2 children of her own.
She teaches history at Brooklyn High School. Thorne shows her the article. This started with potato peels, honey. She smiles, takes the article. Can I keep this? I want to show my students. They won't care. Yes, they will, because I'll make them care. In 1968, the Navy declassifies documents related to World War II anti-submarine warfare. Thorne's contribution is mentioned by name in 3 separate reports. Not prominently, just footnotes, but his name is there. Arlen Thorne, Torpedoman First Class, Tactical Innovation, False Trail Debris Deployment, Estimated Impact, 180 U-boats destroyed, 1943 through 1945. WWII frames one of the documents, hangs it in her classroom. Under the frame, she writes, "My father, the cook who won the Atlantic." Her students ask about it. She tells them the story. Some believe, some do not. She does not care. She tells it anyway. September 19, 1975, Brooklyn Docks, morning. Arlen Thorne stands at the end of Pier 17 with his grandson. The boy is 7 years old, named Michael, Vi's son. He looks like Vi, has her eyes. They watch ships in the harbor, tankers, freighters, container vessels. The water is green-brown, smells like diesel. Grandpa, were you really a war hero? Thorne looks down at the boy, 61 years old now, hair grey, hands scarred from decades of welding, back bent from bending over workbenches. What makes you ask that? Mum says you saved 10,000 people with garbage. Your mum talks too much. But did you? Thorne watches a container ship slide past, 300 feet long, riding low in the water, heavy with cargo. I was a cook who noticed patterns, Michael, that's all. Sometimes that's all it takes. But you were brave? He remembers Vi asking the same question. 33 years ago, different kitchen, different world. I tried to be. Mum says you changed the war. The war changed me, kid. That's different. They stand in silence, watching ships. Seagulls wheel overhead. The sun is warm on their faces. Michael speaks again. Will anyone remember what you did? Thorne considers the question. Thinks about Huxley's book, about Vi's classroom, about the declassified documents, about the footnotes. Some people will. The people who matter. Like who? Like you. Like your mum. Like the 10,000 sailors who went home because of what I figured out. He looks down at Michael. That's sufficient. That's more than most people get. I'll remember, Grandpa. I know you will, kid. They watch the ships until the sun is high, then they walk home together. Grandfather and grandson, the cook and the boy. History contained in the space between them. March 19, 1987. 44 years to the day. Arlen Thorne sits in his kitchen, 73 years old. Loretta died 2 years ago. Cancer. He lives alone now. Vi visits twice a week. On the table lies a newspaper clipping. Navy declassifies WWII submarine tactics. His name is buried in paragraph 7. Torpedoman First Class Arlen Thorne, credited with false trail innovation. He reads it 5 times. Then he calls Vi. Did you see it? I saw it, Dad. Paragraph 7. I know, still counts. Yeah, it does. That night he dreams, but not the nightmare. Not the drowning faces. He dreams of the barb surfacing at dawn. Clean water, clear sky. 44 men alive and laughing. Captain Huxley standing beside him. You did good, Thorne. I tried, sir. That's all any of us can do. He wakes at 0600, 73 years old. The nightmares are gone. Finally. After 44 years, the ghosts have released him. Vi visits that afternoon.
finds him in the backyard, sitting in the sun. "You look peaceful, Dad." "I am?"
The article? The article helped, but that's not it. He closes his eyes. I think I finally understand something. What's that? I didn't need the Navy to acknowledge me. I just needed to know I mattered. And I do. Because of you. Because of your kids. Because somewhere out there, 10,000 men grew old with their families. He opens his eyes. That's sufficient, Vi. That's more than most men get. She sits beside him, takes his hand. They sit in silence until the sun goes down.
"You know what today is?" he asks. "March 19th. 44 years, the day I dumped 40 pounds of garbage and changed the war. You remember the exact date?" "I remember every date, every detail. It's all still here." He taps his head. But it doesn't hurt anymore. The ghosts are gone. "What changed?" "I stopped needing them to say my name. I just needed to know it mattered." "It mattered, Dad." "I know, took me 44 years to believe it, but I know." 2 years later, his heart stops, quick, painless, surrounded by the people who knew his name. Arlen Thorne dies on March 7th, 1989, heart attack in his sleep. He is 75 years old. The funeral is small. Family, a few friends from the docks. 2 men in Navy uniforms who nobody recognizes. They stand in the back. Do not speak. Place a folded flag on the casket. Violet Thorne gives the eulogy. She is 59 years old. Grey in her hair, lines around her eyes. Voice steady. "My father saved 10,000 lives with potato peels and bread scraps and the willingness to ask one question. Why does this matter? He was punished for gambling, assigned to cook, given a job nobody wanted, and he used that job to change history." She looks at the casket. He never got a medal, never got public recognition. For most of his life, the official records erased his contribution. But he taught me something more valuable than medals. He taught me that your job title does not define your impact. That innovation comes from observation. That bravery is not about recognition. It is about doing what needs to be done. She pauses, wipes her eyes. The Navy buried the evidence, classified his contribution. For decades, they denied him acknowledgement, but they could not erase him from history, because history is not written by bureaucrats. It is written by people who remember, people who pass on stories, people who refuse to let heroes disappear. She looks at her sons, at her grandchildren. "We remember, and we will make sure the world remembers." After the service, the 2 Navy officers approach her. One is a captain, grey-haired, ceremonial dress. "Mrs. Morrison?" "Yes." "Your father's service has been reviewed by the Naval History and Heritage Command. His tactical innovation has been credited with saving an estimated 10,000 Allied personnel during World War II. The Secretary of the Navy has authorized posthumous recognition." He hands her a certificate, official seal, gold lettering. "This doesn't change anything," Violet says quietly. "No, ma'am, but it's what we can offer." 34 years too late. "Yes, ma'am." She takes the certificate, looks at it. Her father's name in gold letters. He didn't need this. He had something better. "What's that, ma'am?" "He had us." The officers salute. Turn, walk away. Violet folds the certificate, puts it in her purse, goes home to her family. That night she opens her father's footlocker, the one he kept in the basement for 40 years. Inside are Loretta's letters, photographs, discharge papers. At the bottom, she finds a single page. Charred edges, salvaged from the stove in 1945. Her father's handwriting, faded but legible. December 7th, 1942. Garbage at 0600. Enemy response at 0625, December 10th, 1942. Garbage at 0600. Enemy response at 0622, December 15th, 1942. Pattern confirmed. The evidence? The beginning. The moment everything changed. She holds the page carefully, fragile as prayer. Then she places it in an archive box with the certificate and her father's discharge papers and Huxley's book. She labels the box Arlen Thorne. 1914 to 1989. The cook who won the Atlantic. Someday, she thinks, someone will open this box. They will read these documents, they will see this page of charred handwriting, and they will understand. Innovation does not require billion-dollar budgets or years of development. It requires one person noticing what everyone else overlooks, and one person willing to listen. 3 ships destroyed with 40 pounds of garbage. 41 U-boats sunk in 1 month. 180 U-boats total, 10,000 sailors saved. All because a cook asked one question, why does garbage matter? And because a captain listened. That is the legacy, not medals, not official recognition. Not government acknowledgement, just a question and an answer, and the courage to act. Sometimes that is sufficient.